While Anne sat in the Tower, Henry immediately set about finding her replacement. One woman that caught the king's eye was Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour was around 24 years old. She had come to court to serve first Catherine of Aragon and then Anne Boleyn. She was described by many as being kind and sweet-natured. She was virtuous and honest, and above all, unassuming. In April 1536, Henry had sent Jane a letter. We think it contained a summons to the royal bed, but Jane sent it back unopened and told the messenger that she wanted to make an honourable marriage. Less than 24 hours after Anne's head hit the cobblestones, Henry and Jane were engaged to be married. We've no record of how Jane reacted to the news that Anne had been beheaded, but I don't think it could have concerned her too much, for she showed no hesitation in stepping over the body of her rival to get to the throne. Jane may have looked inoffensive, but I think she had a far steelier streak than anyone realised.
Just 11 days after Anne's beheading, Henry and Jane married. The king was deeply in love. Again.
Not everyone shared Henry's high opinion of Jane. Spanish ambassador Eustace Chapuis was mystified by the king's choice. He wrote in a letter of May 1536 that Jane was a woman of middle stature and no great beauty. She's over 25 years old, she inclines to be proud and haughty, and she's a woman of no great wit.
So why did Henry consider Jane to be good wife material? Especially after he'd previously been married to two attractive, extraordinary, and intelligent women.
I think Jane suited Henry precisely because she was the polar opposite of his last two wives. He didn't need her to be as experienced and intelligent as Catherine, or as sophisticated and witty as Anne. He didn't want her to challenge him. Instead, he saw a woman who'd be compassionate and loyal, and above all, who'd do whatever he told her, without question.
Henry had once loved his daughter Mary, but when she was around 17, he divorced her mother, Catherine. He declared Mary illegitimate, and, under the influence of Anne Boleyn, he stripped her of the title princess.
Mary was now 20 years old, and a lady-in-waiting to Anne Boleyn's daughter, Elizabeth. Jane Seymour took the risky decision to fight for Mary to be restored as a princess.
On the 6th of July, 1536, Henry finally did as Jane had asked. He agreed to meet Mary.
My daughter.
This was the first time Henry had seen Mary in 5 years.
She who caused you so much harm and prevented me from seeing you for so long has paid the penalty.
Jane also welcomed Mary into the family with open arms. She treated her as if she were her own daughter. Jane had brought Henry the greatest gift of all. He had never been so happy.
But Henry's good fortune was not to last. He'd gained a daughter, but in less than a month, he lost his only son, the illegitimate Henry Fitzroy.
27 years and 3 wives into his reign, and still Henry had no male heir. He began to lose hope.
Henry had only been married to Jane for 2 months, but he was already convinced his dynasty was doomed to fail. We know. To his utter delight, Jane became pregnant. This was the news Henry had been waiting for.
In September 1537, Jane was moved to Hampton Court Palace to have her baby.
The royal doctors and astrologers confidently predicted the child would be a boy. But the royal birth was a long way off, and there was plenty of danger still to come.
On October the 9th, 1537, Jane went into labour. But things did not run smoothly. After 2 days, there was still no sign of a baby.
Henry grew more and more anxious as the days passed. He and the whole kingdom prayed for Queen Jane and their future monarch. Henry feared that history was repeating itself, and once again his child would not survive the birth.
Then, on the 3rd day of labour, at 2 o'clock in the morning, Jane finally gave birth. And just as the royal doctors predicted, it was a boy. Jane must have been elated. She had finally given Henry what he wanted. And in return, the birth had given her security, safety, and power. She could do anything, ask for anything, and Henry would almost certainly give it to her.
Henry VIII finally had a legitimate son and heir. He called Jane his true love and his true wife.
This is what all the upheaval, the trouble, the misery and the slaughter of the last 10 years had been leading up to. Now, at last, he was a king with a male heir.
And if Jane could have one son, there was no reason why she couldn't have more. It looked like Henry's Tudor dynasty was finally secure. Plans were drawn up for Queen Jane to return to London, the triumphant mother of a future King of England.
But those plans would have to wait. On Monday, October the 15th, 3 days after giving birth, Jane fell seriously ill. She had caught an infection during labour, probably caused by poor hygiene. For the next 9 days, Jane fought for her life. It was a fight she would not win. Around midnight, on October the 24th, 1537, Jane Seymour died. Jane's reign lasted just 17 months. It was short-lived, but incredibly successful. She proved herself to be a compassionate queen and a loving wife.